my doctor said to me, "You have the blood work of a 90-year-old. What's going on?" And I was like, "I have no idea." I really think that if I didn't work out, I wasn't engaged in the community, I'd go back to sugar or something, heroin, something not good for me. They have benefit of life or death. So somebody's diabetic, pre-diabetic, the reason that they go carnivore, their why is life or death. And those are the people who are willing to do something extreme. Didn't tell a soul, didn't share it. The changes in my face and my body are really extreme. When people see me and they haven't seen me for a while, it's shocking.
Okay, welcome everybody. Today we have Amy's going to share her story with us today. Amy, thanks for doing this, stepping up under short notice, and it's good to have you part of the community. So we'd love to hear in more detail your story. And I've heard little bits of it over the last several months of interacting with you, but why don't you go ahead and start with just giving us a little bit of background and go from there.
Thanks, Dr. Baker. Basically, at the time of 2020, I was pretty metabolically sick. And at that time, I went and got blood work. And my doctor said to me, "You have the blood work of a 90-year-old. What's going on?" And I was like, "I have no idea." So from there and more testing, proceeded to find out that my kidneys were starting to fail. And they eventually diagnosed me with stage 3 kidney disease. So I think at the worst, my levels were, my filtration rate was 46, and then my creatinine was high. So for about 3 months, I just did what she told me. Kept going in for testing, and then I had to go to a rheumatologist because I also had some values there that showed I might have autoimmune. I also had a cardiophrenic fat pad show up. I don't know what that is, but I know that was there, or they were testing for it. And then also my platelets were high. And I did feel sick, like I was not in good shape, had trouble walking because I didn't have a lot of energy in my legs for some reason. I had a lot of brain fog. My work suffered quite a bit. And I was not all there. Like when I was thinking about things, I used to try to remember dates or just details of anything. And when I started to get better, I would try to remember who's the star of the Die Hard movies. And if I could remember Bruce Willis, then it was a good day. If I couldn't remember that, then I knew that my brain was still pretty jacked up. So over the course of that time, I started to do some research, and I came across somebody who was talking about the fasting protocol from Dr. Fung and how they had healed their kidneys from fasting. And then I found your book, and I just did a bunch of research into that. When I joined Dr. Fung's, he has like a private group where you can pay a certain amount of money a month, and they have coaches and things. You go into these little private meeting rooms. And so I joined that, went through the course, learned how to fast, and continued to read up on carnivore. So I started eating ribeyes exclusively and started fasting. And in about 8 months, my values changed. And from 46 to 84 for my filtration rate, and my creatinine went to acceptable levels. And I, through the appointment with the rheumatologist, and didn't have a diagnosis there, I didn't have anything show up for my cardiophrenic fat pad anymore, and my platelets went down. And I only lost about 13 pounds. I was still really overweight. I only lost about 13 pounds, but whatever I did during the course of that 8 or 9 months improved my blood values. So then on the day that my doctor cleared me for no more testing, I was sitting at my work desk, and I had gummy bears in my hand. And I was looking at them and I thought, I'm going to eat these gummy bears kind of casually with no forethought or reasoning. And I did. So then you fast forward to 2022, had gained all the weight back, plus 30 pounds more. I took my doctor to have her appointment with my same doctor and weighed myself for the first time in forever at the doctor's office and saw that I was 197. And I have never seen that number on the scale except when I was pregnant. And I thought, oh, this is probably going to show up in my blood work. And decided I didn't want to die, because that's what it was coming down to. Is I was just hastening my own disease again, whatever it was going to be. And so that was in July. And on August 1 last year, I went full carnivore with some artificial sugar for 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, I had lost 20 pounds. The artificial sugar didn't taste good anymore. And since then, I've been full carnivore.
Okay, let's break some of that stuff down. You mentioned your filtration is all coming on your GFR, glomerular filtration rate. Usually it's an estimated value based on the serum creatinine was 40, which is, people will class that as some phase of chronic kidney disease, I think stage 2, if I'm not mistaken. And you reverse that to normal. And it's one of those things that it's an interesting thing because that test often can be confused by higher protein diets. A lot of people will see, even on a carnivore diet, their GFR will be low, and then they have to get something called a Cystatin-C. But nonetheless, yours clearly reversed, and by eating basically exclusively meat. I mean, you said you were fasting and ribeye steaks only. And we're often told, avoid protein, avoid meat because of kidney disease. And that's clearly, and I've seen over and over again, people reversing exactly that with this diet and other low-carb, higher protein diets. So clearly that's wrong. As we had Dr. Bernstein talking to us the other day about Dr. Brenner and his hypothesis on the rats and how that has been, for some reason, felt to be the actual physiology when the human studies don't really back that up. And then you mentioned the cardiophrenic fat pad. Well, just for you guys know, that's just fat around the heart. And it shows up. The most common reason is people that are obese. That's the most common reason. So there's other reasons. Cushing's disease, I think corticosteroid utilization, prednisone, things like that are some reasons you might see that. And so probably as you lost weight, probably the cardiophrenic fat pad went down for sure. I'm interested because you had success. You'd lost some weight. You reversed your numbers. Presumably you're feeling better. And you said you were sitting there with gummy bears. What happened? Why did you fall back into that and gain all that weight back? What do you think was going on at that time?
I'm not completely sure, but I think part of it, I'm definitely a sugar addict. So stress wise, to relieve stress, sit at my desk, work, kind of a workaholic. And when I get stressed, I just eat some sugar, like a ton of sugar. And so that outlet for stress, I don't think I let go of that just because I was eating ribeyes and fasting. I think it was still there. And so the familiarity of it maybe. And also I wasn't involved in the carnivore community at all. I didn't have any kind of support system there. I didn't have kind of an ongoing learning thing like I do now, where I'm involved in various groups, and I come here to this meeting so that I'm saturating myself every day with something new about carnivore, something to keep me engaged. I wasn't doing that. I was still alone and still just feeling my way, and I still had a ton of stress. So I think that is primarily what it is for me as a sugar addict. I don't know about other people, but for me, I need engagement. So I need to have a daily thing where I'm redecision every day not to eat sugar, redecision every day to remain carnivore, to pursue better health so I can stay engaged and I don't fall back into old stress relieving patterns. And I've been thinking about that. I really did replace it with other things now. Like I replaced it with community. And also I replaced it with working out. I work out a lot and really enjoy it. And I don't, on the days that I can't work out for some reason, I get very agitated, extremely agitated. A lot of people might say that I work out too much, but I have to have something to replace that stress relief from the sugar addiction. When I go and I work out, I can feel all of the stress just leave my body. And my mind is clear and I feel great. And so I'm going to take that over sugar addiction. I really think that if I didn't work out and I wasn't engaged in the community, I'd go back to sugar or something, heroin, I don't know, but something that's not good for me. So when I lift weights, I feel my thinking is clear. I don't have to rely on the sugar.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say sugar addiction, and what many people I think find is you're probably not out there in the pantry eating scoops of sugar out of a sugar packet. It's more like sugary foods or sweetened foods are often ultra processed, and yet some people will choose ones that are candy bars, cookies, cakes, things that are sweet, as opposed to other ultra processed foods like potato chips, which are still ultra processed in a way, but they're not sweet. So would you say it's more of the sweet food sort of thing? Is that fair, or are you on there mainlining sugar on the table and snorting it up? Or
Definitely sweet foods.
Yeah.
And like a good example is every holiday, kids have Halloween candy. They didn't eat their Halloween candy. I ate their Halloween candy. Then comes Christmas. There's always sweets around. Nobody ate it. I ate it. Easter, favorite candy holiday. Nobody ate their Easter candy. I ate their Easter candy. And then I would do something like, I used to bake cakes and decorate them amateur. And I'd tell the family the cake is in the fridge, please eat it. They wouldn't eat it. I would eat it. Constant calling. And then I would feel better after I ate it. And I don't know if that's something I was born with or I developed or what, but I definitely always had that calling. And that calling remained for the first 3 months of carnivore. I had terrible sugar cravings after I ate every time. Right after a meal, I would have my sugar cravings would rise up. And so I would take some cream cheese and I would eat some cream cheese every time. If I had any sugar cravings in between meals, I'd eat some cream cheese. And that took care of it. I could feel it. I physically could feel it go down, my craving. And I did that. And at the end of 3 months, I didn't crave it anymore.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting how, and people have different techniques for dealing with the cravings because I've often said, people that, a lot of people come to lose weight, and I tell them first thing you got to do is fix these addictions, craving issues, and that should be priority number one, because you can always lose weight on any kind of diet, but if you don't kick that sort of addiction, you're going to be right back where you are in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, doesn't really matter. And you said that you were in a fasting group, eating ribeyes. You fell off the wagon due to perhaps stress and things like that, went back to that. Where were you at the point? I guess you said you got on the scale, you're 197, so just enough is enough. Was that the point that said, hey, I got to turn it around again?
Yeah. What I considered very extreme at the time, when I started eating ribeyes and doing the Fung style fasting, I was facing life and death. My values initially kept going down. And I thought, I'm going to end up on dialysis. And so I was facing life and death. So I did something extreme. And when I went back and had the 197 reading on the scale, I felt that same way. It was life or death, which I think is a very operative motivation in the carnivore community. People message me a lot asking about their kidney health, which I just tell my experience. I don't have any expertise, but they message me and they have the benefit of life or death. So somebody's diabetic, pre-diabetic, whatever it may be, the reason that they go carnivore, their why is life or death. And those are the people who are willing to do something extreme. It's pretty hard if you just want to lose weight and you just want to look better to stop eating everything but meat and animal fat. That's unusual. And especially after you start and you have all the backlash, the lifestyle changes, the social pressure, it's unusual to be able to stick to that if you don't have a life or death reason. And in some way, the life or death reason becomes a blessing and allows you to be extreme. And for me, I wanted to see my grandkids someday. I wanted to be able to care for my parents as they age. I did not want to have somebody else take care of me when I was older. And I definitely didn't want to be on dialysis or be super sick. And so for me, I was like, Amy, you got to do this, get your stuff together and do it. And so I don't think I would have that resolve unless I knew that it was going to kill me.
It's interesting because that's what it takes for a lot of people. They have to find themselves at the very bottom, scared for their life, or experience some very harrowing health negative outcome before they're willing to make those changes. Because it is, I know there are people out there that said food addiction doesn't exist, sugar addiction doesn't exist, and clearly there are people that would clearly disagree with their own experience. What, as far as you said, you come to our meetings and other meetings for support around you locally, is there not much support that you get at home, or what is the situation there?
No support at home, although my family members, especially my youngest daughter, she has changed her eating habits quite a bit. And I think that she has my DNA, my propensity to eat sugar, or at least she's more of like a pasta kid. But no, it was not. People were scared. I'm an introvert. I didn't tell my extended family about any of this until after it was over. But my immediate family, they were scared and didn't question anything I did. And then in terms of like people in the world that I interact with, didn't tell a soul, didn't share it. It wasn't until this go around when I really, the changes in my face and my body are really extreme. When people see me and they haven't seen me for a while, or they see my before and after pictures, it's shocking, especially in my face. And so now I get constant questions. I go to a work event or something like that, and people want to know what is going on and what I did. And as soon as I tell them about the carnivore diet, then they say, oh, I can't do that. In fact, I had my labs and had my doctor's appointment just yesterday. I got my labs back too this morning, and my doctor asked me what was going on. And I told her about the carnivore diet. I haven't seen her for a while. Sorry, I haven't seen her for a while. And she said, how'd you lose all this weight? Because since I've seen her, I've lost almost 60 pounds. And I told her about the carnivore diet. She said, you don't eat any vegetables. And she's the one that originally found my kidney disease and said to me, you have blood work of a 90-year-old. And I said, no, I don't. And she started listing them off. Can't you eat lettuce? I said, no, I eat lettuce. And she said, I think you should eat some vegetables. And then she said, let's double check your cholesterol when it comes back. And it was in the red this morning when I looked at it. But nobody in my life is part of our community, like part of our thinking. Their thinking is so far removed from being able to think about doing carnivore, and their thinking is mainstream. There's nobody. So that's why I go to Steak and Butter Gang. I'm a moderator there. I come here. I'm part of Laura Spath's locals group. I've tried some other groups, and I just really need our community.
Yeah, certainly we're happy to have you here, and I look forward to your conversation, and hopefully you get similar support in some of these other communities. It's interesting because your cholesterol is elevated, and so this is a very often a break point for a lot of people because their doctor will say, oh my God, your cholesterol's high. I'm concerned about heart disease. I think you need to stop this diet. And many people will because of that. And yet, to me, it's still very much an open question as to, are you better off or worse off compared to where you were? Because you have stage 2 chronic kidney failure, and now you presumably don't have that anymore. You've lost 60 pounds. I'm sure there's a whole host of other benefits you've noticed from that. And we've got this one lab value that goes, we've seen this story over and over again. And the question is, what do you do about that? And that's between you and your physician. I have my thoughts on that, which I've shared many times. Let me ask you, as far as you say you can't eat lettuce and you're excluding all these things. What do you eat? What does your diet look like today?
So I eat a lot of steak. That's my go-to. I also find that I feel better on that. If I am tired of steak, I'll eat some chicken wings. I also like to eat, I do eat dairy. I'll eat a little bit of pork, but primarily beef. And my taste buds have changed a lot. So when I first started, I was eating what I will call like the accessory foods, like some eggs, bacon, things like that. But now I feel better from if I eat ground beef. And when I eat chicken or something like that now, it just doesn't have the same effect. But that took a long time. That's only like the past 4 months probably that my taste buds have changed that much. And that's pretty much what I stick to.
Okay. And you said you went through this cream cheese phase for 3 months. How are you doing with cravings now? Are you fine with your sugar? You don't feel like I need any of that stuff?
My sugar cravings have not come back after the first 3 months, which I'm amazed about. I never have a sugar craving. It doesn't sound good to me. I will get cravings for other things. I do. So I was shocked when Laura Spath, whom I love, I binge watched everything she had when I was learning about watched everything, because she has a lot of the same tendencies I do for the sugar addiction. And anyway, I was shocked to find out she still has a Diet Coke every day. Every single day, she still has a Diet Coke. And so some people would think that's horrendous in our community. But for me, I was like, I understand that. I know why she does that, because she has taken her tendency to eat sugar, removed it from her life. She doesn't have it anymore, but she still has this one piece of her addiction. And every day she visits that piece of her addiction. And I understand that. And so if I'm going to have something that's not carnivore, at some point I discovered there were these that didn't have anything on them except salt, roasted cashews. And so I will have a handful of those as like my Diet Coke. I don't have any inflammation from it. It doesn't affect me, and it doesn't give me sugar cravings. And there's really no reason for me to do that. Like, I'm not hungry. It's not that great when I eat it. But I think that's part of my sugar addiction, that I revisit that old part of myself, and I have the cashews. It's done. I go on with the rest of my day. The next day I get up and I'm still carnivore. In some ways, it keeps me carnivore. I don't think people who have not had some kind of food addiction in this community, I don't think they struggle with that. They eat their meat. They're fine. They go on. But the people who do not have this little visitation to the Diet Coke or visitation to the cashews, maybe sometimes they go off the rails completely for a day or two, and sometimes they don't come back. So I'm okay with my cashews because I think it keeps me carnivore. I'm still struggling to understand why I do the things I do and how it affects my habits. But that's what I've learned about myself so far.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about the exercise part, because you said you had some unhealthy stress addictions and you've now substituted it with exercise, which can taken to an extreme can be problematic. But for many people, it's a good use of time. It's productive. I know when I was going through some stressful times in my life, I ramped up my exercise quite a bit, and it kept me sane more or less than anything. how did that evolve, and how have you utilized that, and how important is that to you?
It's the most important thing to me, more important than anything, because it allows me to enjoy all the other priorities in my life. But basically, I had my first 3 months of a carnivore, August, September, October. I turned 50 at the end of October. And when I was getting ready to turn 50, I decided that I didn't want to look 50. And I was on my road, even though I still was really overweight, inflamed. I started on the road. I started going to the tanning salon. I got fake eyelashes, which I love. Highly recommend. Not for you, Charlie. But
I was considering that.
Anyway. So I started on this road of being able to enjoy or start to enjoy how I was going to look, or in the process of looking. And so in November, I joined Orange Theory, which is rowing, weights, and treadmill. It's like HIIT training. And at the beginning, when I walked in there, I could walk only 2 miles per hour on the treadmill. And it was that way for 2 months. Couldn't walk any faster. I felt like I was going to fall, and my body just couldn't sustain anything faster. And then I also had the experience where in the weight room, I was just stepping up on the bench, like on a weight bench, and with some weights. And I didn't use any weights, and I could not step up on the bench, which my leg muscles had atrophied a lot during my kidney disease, and then continued to atrophy for some reason. And excuse me. And so when I tried to step up on the bench, I couldn't step up on the bench, and the instructor came over, asked me if I was okay, and showed me modification. I couldn't step up on a bench for at least a month and a half because my leg muscles couldn't sustain it. And I couldn't do any lunges. I had to do a modified lunge. So over the course of that, I just suffered through it. But I still felt such stress relief when I left, even though I couldn't keep up at all. And I was the slowest one in every single thing. I still felt so much stress relief when I left, and my body started to feel different. So then by the time it got to February, they had a little contest, and I decided I'd go start lifting weights. So I kept going to Orange Theory, and then I started going into the scary weight room in the gym where there are hardly any women. It's like in the bowels of the gym, right up against the mirrors with my fat little body, and walked my tush in there. Screw you, I'm going to do this. And that was my attitude from day one, and started teaching myself how to lift. And so when that started, I got addicted. And that was like really fun for me. So that progressed. And during this whole time, I was continuing to learn more about I stopped doing dairy for 2 months, and I tracked my face, took a picture of my face every day for 2 months to see how the inflammation went down. Just little projects like that. I started doing alternate day fasting. I did that for 2 months, or 46 days. I did alternate day fasting, and discovered what it feels like to do my weights workouts and my Orange Theory fasted, which is awesome. So now when I go into the gym to lift, I still walk in like I'm a badass, and I walk right up and I do everything I want to do, and I'm strong and I feel capable. I can step up on the bench with heavy weights. I'm fit. And that is like a great feeling compared to when I first started. I couldn't barely keep up with anyone. Like I couldn't do it. I'm going to continue to pursue that and continue to get as strong as I can before I hit menopause. And I'm pretty excited to not go into my 51st birthday like I went into my 50th birthday.
Yeah, good for you. It's interesting in the bowels of the gym where the big sweaty guys that are grunting and moving, that they actually find out most often they're very friendly and accommodating. There's a few people that are goofy, but for the most part, I welcome you down there and often are very helpful. And so I think anybody that's intimidated by that, don't be, because often some of the most helpful people and the people that are going to potentially encourage you the most are in there, because anytime I see somebody that's trying to better themselves, I always if there's any way I can help, I try to. And I see that, in multiple ways. That's when I went at jiu-jitsu, everybody's very supportive. And even we're trying to kill each other, we're all very supportive. Here's how you can kill me better, and here's how I can kill you better type of stuff. But so it's a good place to be. Had you ever done strength training or lifting or gym stuff prior in your life? Is this really the first time you've mostly done this, or did you do it a little when you're younger?
I did do some when I was younger. Do you remember EAS, Experimental Applied Scientist, Bill Phillips in Colorado? Remember when that was?
His Body for Life sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I worked for him right after college for a couple of years, and I did strength train there a little bit, but nothing like now. Sorry about that. I remember I was bicep curling 12 pounds. Now I bicep curl 25s. And so I was in my 20s then and a lot stronger now than I was then. But yeah, I was in that environment. There were a lot of fitness competitors and bodybuilders that worked there. I was not one, but I was in that community for a short time, for a couple of years, and exposed to it.
Yeah, okay. It's as far as age, you said you're 50 now. There's, 80, 90-year-olds that are weight training. And I constantly see people in their 70s, 80s doing tremendously impressive things, which is something I think almost all of us have that capacity to do if only we were to apply ourselves to that. And it's not easy. It's hard. Every day I try. It's always hard work, and it never gets easier. It's always you put in the work, but it's like you mentioned. I think this is the very important part you mentioned, that it makes the rest of your life relatively easy, because you don't struggle to lift your bags out of your car because you just don't have the strength. All those things. It makes your whole life harder. Whereas you concentrate 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day, or a few times a week into something hard, then the rest of the life becomes easier. How, again, without the carbohydrates in your diet, are you feeling that you're struggling in the gym, or do you feel like, hey, I'm doing fine, I'm doing okay?
I feel really good in the gym. Like I don't bonk at all. And I have the best workouts when I'm fasted. So I find that if I eat, I can feel my energy level just starts dedicating itself to digesting my food. So I do all my workouts fasted, and those are the best ones I have. I would say sometimes they're euphoric when I'm fasted and I do them.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and a lot of people will make the complaint that they can't work out without carbs, or they don't feel as good, and that happens to some people. I know personally, I do fine without it. I've done, been training hard and just as good as pretty much anyone, certainly my age, without any carbohydrate in the diet for the most part. Do you find that you said you've been attending all these community things and learning? Has your sort of, I don't say philosophy, but your application of a carnivore diet, has it changed in any way over the last, year or so you've been doing this? I'm going to focus on this more, and has anything given you more success or less success?
I feel really lucky because at the 5th month, I started doing the Coach Raymond's program in steak and butter, which I know you know all about. And the way that it guided me through is baby steps to more extreme. And yes, for me, carnivore and fasting has always been together since since I started steak and butter. And I also feel like that has created a window of time where I don't have to choose to be carnivore. I can just choose to be fasting. Choosing to be carnivore is, especially in the 4th or 5th month of carnivore, is still hard, very hard. So these fasting windows that gradually increase in steak and butter gang had allowed me to take a break from the decision to be carnivore and just take a break from eating, whether it's 24-hour fast, 48-hour fast, alternate day fast, whatever it is. I don't have to think about it during that time frame. And so that has changed over time, where I've become a better faster. I know how to listen to my body. I know how to be carnivore without fasting as well. His program takes you all the way through, where eventually you have to just live with eating intuitively when you're hungry, which was hard for me because I had been on this schedule of his calendars. And he does that on purpose so that you find out if you're really going to stay carnivore, and if you're going to undereat, which I think most carnivores undereat. I eat about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat on my eating days because I don't want my hormones or my hair or anything to be affected. And so that has changed in a really purposeful way across that time frame, but only because I would have no idea how to do it on my own if I wasn't in steak and butter gang, because I have no expertise in it. I don't understand the mechanism behind it. So that is what has guided me. And I still have that skill set as I go. And I still have the community, because in there, we're all doing it together at some point in the calendar. Somebody's at some point in the calendars. Somebody has had a challenge that I haven't had, and we share. And so that's why I hold so tightly to the community aspect, because you have to talk to other people who have screwed up. You have to talk to other people who have had success, because it's difficult. This is like a hard thing to do. People who choose to do this and eat meat and fat, that's not easy. And so you have to have other people struggling and suffering and messing up with you. And that's the same with the fasting. We all talk about that. And so that's that. I wouldn't say that it has changed, but I would say the evolution of it has allowed me to hone what my method is every day for my carnivore and my fasting.
Yeah, you mentioned the importance of support community-wise. And one aspect that a lot of people, particularly with health issues, find they lack support is often at the physician's office. Like I said, you go into the physician's office and you tell them, hey, I'm on carnivore, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to get, don't do that. Or maybe occasionally you'll get somebody who's doesn't really care, and I say, okay, if it's working, keep doing what you're doing, but they don't really express a genuine interest. And so how important is it to you with health issues? Because as we start to roll out our Revero platform, and we have physicians that actually understand carnivore, are accepting of that, and in many cases will utilize it as a tool. Is that aspect of it important to you? Would having a physician that was maybe more mindful with, you think that would have any impact on your journey?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. I live in Colorado, where the diet doctor lives, and there I do have resources to switch doctors and do teledoctor who's carnivore friendly, which I'm considering now, because my health issues, I still have them. Like, I still cannot process potassium. It makes my ankles swell, which my ankles were perpetually swollen when I was struggling with my kidneys. I still have some higher values. I don't know what that is, Dr. Baker. Hemocratic value or something.
Hematocrit. That's your red blood cell count, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I still have some things that are off kilter. My filtration rate still goes up and down. Right now it's 68. The damage that I did when I was eating so much sugar and the onslaught onto my organs still exists. That damage is still there. And I would much prefer to have a carnivore-friendly doctor who looks at people's lab work and has experience with people who are carnivore, so that he or she can advise me. So yeah, I think the service of Revero and what it can offer to people like us is invaluable, especially as we age. I hope that you'll add like women's stuff somehow eventually. I know you can't do a lot of things, but I hope that it evolves and is fantastic. Because when you talk to your doctor about anything, it's like their mindset is nowhere near a carnivore. They can't even move their mindset there. And there are repercussions if they do for their career. So to have somebody who's carnivore friendly is revolutionary for us.
Yeah, just one comment I would make when you're referring to your GFR, your glomerular filtration, I would seriously get it based on a Cystatin-C and not a serum creatinine, because it's going to be affected by the fact you're eating more protein, and it's not an accurate assessment. So switch over to Cystatin-C, see what your GFR really is, or at least these are both estimates. One is impacted by protein consumption, which can make it unclear. One is not, and the Cystatin-C is not affected by your protein consumption. These are both estimates. There's a way to directly measure it as well. Nephrologists have you do, but I think you should just get the Cystatin-C, even if you ordered it on your own, because you could have at least some level of maybe better understanding. Because myself, if I look at my GFR based on creatinine, it's going to be like 60. If I do it on Cystatin-C, it's 100 plus, 120 sometimes. There's that much difference in those two tests. And the problem is most physicians aren't familiar with it for whatever reason. It's a well-documented, studied, even recommended test for many cases, but most, outside of maybe a nephrologist, most primary care physicians have very little facility with it. Let me see. Do you find that I always, if I remember, I try to ask this, downsides of the diet, negative things that have happened to you? Any negative things that have happened to you since you started going carnivore? Doesn't, if there's none, but anything you think that you've seen?
I've heard you ask that question before, and I remember thinking about that question. I would have to say no. There's no downside for me. Yeah. And basically, it saved my life. So there's no downside to that. No matter what struggle or what challenge there is to remain carnivore, there's no downside to being able to continue to live. Fair
enough. What about, and again, I'll ask again, expense? A lot of people say this diet is unaffordable. I can't do it. It's impossible. I don't know what your income status is, but are you able to make it work okay? And how does it compare to, say, previous diets?
I'd say it's cheaper for me and simplistic. So I buy all my steak on sale or at Costco, and it costs me about $20 to $25 a day to eat at the most, much less if I choose ground beef that day instead of a ribeye. So I'd say it's cheaper. It's pretty expensive to buy Easter candy and hide it in your house and go grab some when you get stressed at your desk. That's pretty expensive. Just the clothing, my clothing, for a woman, that's a major change, because when you're fat and you're trying to buy clothes that make you look hot, you can't find them and you got to try on a bunch of different stuff and you still look like hell. But when you're fit, you can wear almost anything and feel comfortable. And so you can buy things that are less expensive because you don't have to rely on these specialty clothes that are for bigger women. That is a huge expense saver. That's been the biggest thing, is I've had to buy new clothes, and I continue to have to buy new clothes as I'm continuing to get different body shape and smaller. That's an expense, but I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, that is one thing a lot of people complain, I got to buy new clothes. What over the next do you have goals with a weight goal, a strength goal, a health goal that you're still working towards? And just because we can support you as you get there, what are your goals at this point?
I try to keep my goals pretty short term. Right now, I'm getting ready to do an Omera protocol, which is just sprinting and fasting. And that's a 2-month long thing. I'm going to start on the 1st. So the sprinting I'm doing because I know it's going to be really challenging for me. And I'm not just going to sprint. I'll do, like you suggested, on the bike and things like that. It's all out. But I still have places on my body, which I'm sure I will for years continue, but I've got places on my lower body that I really want to transform. So the sprinting, I know will shave some of that body fat off right there in that area and give me some more muscle there. So that's a 2-month long thing. And then in terms of weight training, I'm always I know you suggested I work my lower body more, which I have started doing, but I really like to do chest press with the dumbbells. I'm up to the 45s. So my next goal is to get up to the 50s. Little goals like that. And that's about all I can handle because I try not to make them very lofty and I try to make sure they're attainable. They're always usually fitness related. And then I've just let the physical and the everything else fall where it's going to. So I do 2-month long little projects on my Instagram. And now they've started to take off, like this Omera thing. All these people messaged me, asked me if they could do it with me. So I had to change how I'm presenting it so they can pick and choose. I'm going to put those straps on my legs. I know you think this kind of stuff is silly, so I hesitate to tell you, but those straps that restrict the flow of blood up by your tush.
Yeah. Blood flow restriction
bands.
Out. Yeah, sure.
When I'm sprinting.
Yeah. Okay. And there's a saying that form follows function. And so as you get more effective and more athletic, your body will start to look more athletic. And it's just the way it is. There's sprinters look like sprinters for a reason. And other athletes look like athletes for a reason because their form often follows their function, or the way they look will follow the function there. You mentioned you have an Instagram. Let me just ask you about the social media now. How has that been going for you? Obviously, you're probably promoting a carnivore way of eating. Has that been received generally pretty well? Is there some detractors? What's that been like? And share your handle if you want people to follow you over there.
You just look for Carnivore Amy on Instagram and you'll see my face in my hat. But I have to say that the social media thing has been really challenging for me. I am introverted. I need time alone a lot. And I find it really challenging to keep up and to have that interaction. So that's something I've been struggling with is I'll get overwhelmed, get so many messages or questions, and I like them. I like to talk to people about, they'll say, what about this? What'd you do here? And a lot of the time people contact me, they're gung-ho, and then they're gone. Okay. Just like the gummy bears in my hand after my blood work got cleared. That's what happens to us. So I find it really hard to keep up socially with the social media and not get drained, but I'm working on that right now. I put really unattractive pictures on there of myself from my past that nobody would do. It's all showing, all the cellulite, all the fat, double chin, it's all there. And I do that because my demographic, the people who are me, fat ladies, they see it. And then they see my video of me in the gym doing whatever. And they know that it's possible. That's why I put that up, because there's no hope when you're a 50-year-old fat chick and you feel lost. You don't have hope. There aren't, even in the carnivore community. I mean, Dr. Baker, you've never been fat. Coach Raymond, he's been fat. Coach Emily, she's been fat. These are things that you have to have hope. So I want to give them hope. I put the worst pictures that I have on there, and then I show my after, and I say something cheesy like, don't give up, because that's what I mean. It's okay to be where you are, because there's a place you can go. And that really feeds me and keeps me carnivore to do that. And it helps me share. And people ask me questions. Do you cheat? Do you do this? And I always tell them the truth, because I'm still just human. I'm a carnivore, but I'm still just human, and I'm always learning. And that's how it is. It's a continuum and a progression. And so that part of the social media thing I really like. I love to show my before and after. And there's a ton of them on there because of the other women who are like me.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And thanks for doing this interview, and thanks for being part of the community. We look forward to your further success and with whatever 2-month challenge you're doing. That's really awesome. I'm excited to see how you do with the sprinting. Something I do all the time. I'm a big fan of sprinting, and I think there's some, again, you got to do it safely because running sprints can sometimes lead to injuries. Anyway, thank you, Amy, for taking the time out and doing this on short notice. And like I said, we appreciate it as part of the community. For the rest of the folks, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you guys. And then Sunday, of course, I'm going to be on a plane, so I won't be able to see you guys. But you guys have a great weekend if I don't see you till then. Thank you so much, Amy. Bye-bye now.